The city was quiet, but heaven was watching. In a borrowed upper room, Jesus sat with his 12, knowing what would soon unfold. He looked at each of them, not as followers, but as friends, brothers, children he had poured his life into. This wasn't just a meal. It was a farewell, a covenant. Jesus lifts the bread with both hands, eyes raised to heaven.
Take this, all of you, and eat it. This is my body, given for you.
In that moment, he gave himself away, not just to those in the room, but to every soul who would ever hunger for mercy.
This is my blood, poured out for many, for the forgiveness of sins.
They didn't understand, not yet, but this cup, this promise, would become the heartbeat of the church. He had one more act of love before the world would turn dark. Jesus told Peter that he would deny him before the cock crows 3 times today, and then he said, "One of you that is seated with me here will betray me." At that moment, he gave Judas a piece of bread, and immediately Judas left to look for the priests. Other disciples kept asking, "Lord, is it me?" Under the shadow of ancient trees, Jesus knelt alone. The stars above seemed to dim as sorrow pressed upon him like a crushing stone. This was the battle before the battle, the place where eternity held its breath.
Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done.
Sweat drips like blood from his brow. His robe clings to him from the strain. An angel appears behind him, glowing softly, offering strength, not escape. He could have walked away. He could have called legions of angels, but he stayed, for love. The Son of God stood to face betrayal, with open arms. While his disciples slept, Jesus stood, resigned to the will of the Father. But in the shadows, betrayal was drawing near. Torchlights flicker as a large group descends into Gethsemane, their faces grim, their hands clutching swords and clubs. Judas Iscariot, once a friend, now the traitor. For 30 silver coins, the price of a slave, he sold the Savior of the world. Judas walks ahead of the armed group, eyes darting, face pale. He spots Jesus and approaches him.
Friend, do what you have come for.
Judas kisses Jesus on the cheek. Soldiers rush forward to seize him. Peter, enraged, draws his sword and strikes. In a flash of steel, Peter slashed at the high priest's servant, cutting off his ear. But Jesus, wounded in spirit, reached out and healed. Jesus touching Malchus's ear, light radiating from his hand as the wound disappears. Shocked faces all around.
Put your sword away. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?
Jesus turns to the crowd.
Have you come out as against a robber, with swords and clubs? I sat daily with you in the temple, and you did not seize me. But this is your hour, and the power of darkness.
Soldiers, priests, and elders. The lamb did not flee. The lion did not roar. He walked willingly, bound by love, not by rope.
Gethsemane, meaning oil press, was a private garden likely owned by a follower of Jesus. A fitting place, he was spiritually pressed under the weight of the coming sacrifice. 30 pieces of silver was the price set for a slave in Exodus 21:32, fulfilling the prophecy of Zechariah 11:12-13. Malchus, the servant whose ear Peter cut, is named only in John's Gospel, evidence of the apostles' eyewitness account.
In the dead of night, the Son of God was dragged before his accusers. A secret trial, illegal under Jewish law, held not to seek truth, but to condemn it. Jesus, bound, stands before the high priest Caiaphas. The room is packed with elders, scribes, and priests. The Sanhedrin, 71 elders of Israel, stood in judgment over their Messiah. Though law demanded fairness, their hearts were set on death. False witnesses stumbled over their lies, their words twisted, their hatred exposed. Yet Jesus, stood silent. Jesus stares calmly, not a word spoken. The crowd grows more frustrated.
Have you no answer to what these men testify?
Like a lamb before its shearers, he opened not his mouth. For the truth needed no defense, it was embodied in him.
I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God.
I am, and you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven.
They cried blasphemy, but heaven whispered truth. The council erupts. Some strike Jesus, others spit on him. A guard blindfolds him and slaps his face.
Prophesy, Messiah. Who hit you?
The judge of all the earth, judged by men. The truth himself, accused by lies.
Jewish law forbade trials at night or during festivals. Yet this trial took place at night and during Passover. Blasphemy was the only charge serious enough for execution under Jewish law. Jesus' confession in Mark 14:62 sealed his fate, but fulfilled prophecy, Daniel 7:13. Tearing of the high priest's robe was dramatic but illegal, according to Leviticus 21:10. Jesus' silence fulfills Isaiah 53:7. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth.
The Son of God stood silent before men, beaten, bloodied, mocked. Pilate, the Roman governor, gazed upon him. He could find no fault in Jesus. Yet outside, a crowd roared. Their voices, once welcoming cries of Hosanna, now bellowed, "Crucify him!" Pilate offered them a choice. A tradition during Passover, one prisoner would be released. Jesus' lies had poisoned their hearts. Fear and politics ruled the day. Pilate washed his hands, declaring himself innocent. But no amount of water could cleanse the guilt of condemning innocence itself. And so, the Lamb was sentenced to die. Not for his crimes, for he had none, but for ours. Every betrayal, every sin, every bitter thought. We were the Barabbas who walked free, while Jesus bore the weight of our punishment. He didn't resist. He chose the cross. He chose us.
Roman governors like Pilate often appeased crowds to avoid uprising, especially during tense festivals like Passover. Crucifixion was reserved for the worst criminals, public humiliation and excruciating death. Washing hands was a Jewish custom, symbolizing innocence. Ironic, as Pilate, a Gentile, used it. Weighed down not just by a cross, but by the sins of the world, Jesus began his journey to Calvary. The path was narrow and cruel. Every step echoed with agony, every stumble a reminder that the Savior was walking the road meant for us. He fell, again and again. The weight too much for any man, but he was no ordinary man. He was love in human flesh, and love does not quit. A stranger was pulled from the crowd, Simon of Cyrene. He was made to carry the cross with Jesus. Unknowingly, Simon became part of the greatest story ever told. His hands touched the wood stained with the blood that would one day save him. The women of Jerusalem sobbing. Jesus stops briefly, looking into their eyes with compassion. Even in agony, Jesus paused to comfort others. "Daughters of Jerusalem," he said, "do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children." He wasn't thinking of escape. He was thinking of us. His journey to Calvary was the journey of every broken heart, every sinner, every soul desperate for redemption. Each step was a message. I am with you in your suffering. I carry it with you. And the Lamb arrived at the altar. The Via Dolorosa in Jerusalem is believed to be the path Jesus walked. Roman flogging would have weakened him to the brink of death even before the crucifixion. The use of Simon shows how God can use even the unwilling for divine purpose. Jesus' pause to speak to the women reflects his unwavering mission, to love and to warn, even in agony.
Atop the hill called Golgotha, the place of the skull, Jesus was laid down upon the wood he carried. The cross became his altar, and we were the reason. Soldiers drive nails through Jesus' wrists and feet. Each strike echoes painfully. Mary watches, her heart breaking. John stands beside her, stunned. The nails pierced not only his flesh, but the veil between God and man. With each agonizing blow, He whispered forgiveness, not vengeance.
Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing.
One rejected him, the other believed, and with mercy beyond comprehension, Jesus spoke.
Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise.
Jesus looking down at Mary and John. Despite his pain, he speaks gently.
Woman, behold your son. Son, behold your mother.
Even in death, he provided for his mother. Even while suffering, he connected hearts in love. At the 6th hour, the sky grew black. Creation mourned. The earth felt its creator's pain, and from the cross came a cry that shook eternity.
My God, why have you forsaken me?
He felt what we feel: abandonment, pain, silence from heaven. But he endured, so we would never be truly alone.
I thirst.
Not just for water, but for the souls of men, for you, for me.
It is finished.
The debt paid, the curse broken, love fulfilled.
Father, into your hands I commit my spirit.
Jesus breathes his last. The earth quakes. The temple veil tears in two. A Roman centurion stares in awe.
Roman crucifixion was brutal and humiliating, reserved for the worst criminals. Jesus spoke 7 final phrases, each holding eternal weight and personal meaning. The tearing of the temple veil symbolizes our direct access to God through Christ. The Roman centurion's confession represents the first fruits of Gentile faith. The earth had quaked, the veil had torn, the Lamb had died, but now, silence. His body, so full of life, now still. The Word made flesh had breathed his last, and yet prophecy had not yet finished its course. Joseph of Arimathea, one of the council, yet a secret disciple, gathered his courage. With Nicodemus, the teacher who once visited Jesus by night, he came by day to honor the broken king. Joseph and Nicodemus lowering Jesus' body from the cross with reverence and trembling hands. They took him down carefully, lovingly, wrapped his sacred body in linen, soaked in spices, myrrh, and aloes, about 75 pounds worth. They carried Jesus to a tomb, hewn from stone. A garden nearby whispers of Eden lost and redemption begun. They laid him in a new tomb, one no man had used, fulfilling the words of Isaiah. He was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death. The stone is rolled in place, a heavy thud, the entrance sealed. Soldiers stand watch. The light of the world, buried in darkness, the bread of life, placed in the silence of stone, the good shepherd, rested even in death. Mary Magdalene watches from afar, tears in her eyes, grief in her heart, but not without hope. But even in that tomb, heaven held its breath, because love cannot stay buried. And the author of life was not finished. Jewish burial customs required burial before sundown due to Sabbath laws. Joseph of Arimathea risked his position and reputation for Jesus, an act of bold love. Nicodemus's 75 pounds of spices symbolize great honor, typically reserved for kings. The tomb in a garden echoes Genesis, where death first entered, now awaits resurrection. Roman guards were posted to prevent deception, yet they would witness a miracle no sword could stop.